Hey mamas, today we are talking about the first 3 months postpartum, which are crucial when it comes to your health after having a baby, whether it's your first babe or your third. I'll be introducing the foundations of postpartum wellness so that you can thrive in the 4th trimester instead of just surviving. Now, I do realize that sometimes this is what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to survive, and that's okay, but there are definitely things we can focus on to help us flourish. I know that this time is a lot, physically, mentally, and emotionally, so I want to provide you with ways you can nourish and care for yourself and help through the early stages of motherhood and beyond. Enjoy today's show. Welcome to Strong and Nourished Momma, the podcast dedicated to helping busy moms thrive. I'm Val, functional sports dietitian, prenatal and postpartum fitness coach, and first-time mama. I'm here to guide you on a wellness journey with simple, practical strategies to keep you feeling strong, nourished, and energized every day. Whether you're juggling work, family, or finding time for yourself, I'll share tips on nutrition, health, and wellness tailored just for moms. So if you're ready to feel empowered and recharged, let's dive in to today's episode and start building a stronger, more nourished you. Enjoy the show. I want to share some postpartum wellness foundations with you because everything is always focused on pregnancy, labor and delivery, giving birth, and your baby. And rightly so. Those are very important things. We need to focus on them still, but rarely about the postpartum mom. The focus is rarely about the postpartum mom who not only grew a human for 40 weeks, give or take, but also had to go through labor and give birth. And that is so much, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally too. This leaves us overwhelmed, overstimulated, and lost postpartum, especially as a first-time mom, because you don't know what you don't know. And so going into it, you don't know what to expect. And of course, you talk to different moms and different people, and you can kind of get an idea. But once you actually go through it yourself, that's when you truly understand. So I want us to be able to understand that, okay, we want to focus on all of these important things, pregnancy, birth, and of course our baby, but we cannot forget about the postpartum mom. As a mom, you need to understand how imperative the first 3 months are when it comes to healing. There are things we can do before we have our baby to make postpartum just a little bit easier. So I remember I kind of started preparing for my postpartum journey early on in pregnancy. I was thinking about maternity leave, and I'm very grateful and blessed that I have a job where I get paid maternity leave, and I had extra vacation time that I wanted to use and I could use. So I remember creating a proposal, sharing it with my manager. I was very specific. I had my baby girl at the end of August. So I wanted to take, of course, my 12 weeks of maternity leave, and I wanted to have the rest of the year off, about a month until the new year, so that I can take time to recover, but also being able to move slowly, not rushing back into things with work and with life, and just being able to connect with my baby. I also wanted to go back to work part-time and slowly increase my hours, so I'm not just jumping back into 40 hours a week and then trying to handle that and a baby, right? And recovering. That is a lot. So again, I'm very grateful I was able to start at 25 hours at the beginning of this year and then go up to 30. And then now I'm at 35. And then next year in 2025, I'll go back to 40. So that's actually made a tremendous, tremendous difference. And I have nothing to compare it to, but I imagine that it would be a lot more stressful if I went back right after the 12 weeks. Full time. And I know that can't be the case for everyone, depending on a variety of things, what we do for work, if we have the help, finances. I know everyone's situation is different, and I totally respect that. But I think if we can, taking time to recover is going to be the main thing. And so the foundations that I'm going to share with you today, that is the basis of your foundations. I know that this time is a lot physically, mentally, and emotionally, and you were pregnant for 40 weeks. You have a new baby, your body is exhausted and went through so much. When a baby is born, a mother is born, and it's still going to be different every single time you have a baby. So let's talk about actionable ways you can nourish and care for yourself so that you can help yourself through the early stages of motherhood and beyond. So let's talk about the foundations of postpartum wellness, and we're going to touch on different areas. I'll provide some things that you can do. So there are 5 key topic areas within the foundations of postpartum wellness. 1, physical recovery after birth. 2, emotional health and mental wellness. 3, sleep and rest. 4, nourishment and hydration. And 5, reconnecting with your body and gentle movement. Let's start with number 1, physical recovery after birth. You have to take time to recover postpartum. It has to be a priority. It takes about 2 to 3 years to fully recover from being pregnant and giving birth. 2 to 3. And then if you're breastfeeding on top of that, right, it's still requiring a lot of energy and nutrients to provide for your baby. So it may take a little bit longer than 2 to 3 years. It just depends. Those first 3 months postpartum, though, are going to be especially important. And in other cultures, they practice what is known as lying in. And so they lie in for 30 to 40 days. It may depend. And essentially, it's just giving time for the mom to connect with her new baby and to recover. So she's basically not doing anything besides laying in bed, resting, eating nourishing foods, and being with her baby. And then her family and friends are supporting her with cleaning the house, making nutritious meals, and other things that need to be done. So it's really interesting when we look at these other cultures and then we compare it to our culture in the United States of, okay, you just had your baby. That's cool. Awesome. You need to go back to work, and then you need to go back to the gym, and you need to do all of the things. And I don't think that's the way it needs to be done. I highly disagree with that. Of course, there are some instances where that needs to be done, and I understand that, but we have to make sure that even if that's the case, we are making rest and healing and recovery a priority. Being pregnant is equivalent to running a marathon every day for 40 weeks. Like, what? Can you imagine? I can't even imagine running one marathon, let alone 1,000 marathons back to back every single day. Like that is insanity to me. But when you think of it, like the metabolic demands of being pregnant is equivalent to running a marathon every day. Like, oh my gosh, that kind of puts things into perspective because you're creating a human, and that takes an insane amount of energy and nutrients to be able to do that. Now imagine you're training for a marathon or an ultra endurance event every day for weeks and months. You're putting in all you have to do to prepare your body for this race. This is just like being pregnant and then giving birth. Now, after your ultra endurance event, your race, what do? You rest. You take that time to heal and recover. And the same goes for a major injury. Like maybe you tore your rotator cuff and you have to have surgery. It's not like, okay, a month later, you're gonna be like, okay, let's go back to lifting heavy groceries and going back to CrossFit and boxing and doing all the things that you were doing before, right? Like, no, it's probably gonna take months to recover, and it's probably gonna be at least a year until you feel like yourself again. The same goes for being pregnant and giving birth. We have to make sure that we recognize that you grew a human from scratch. Your hormones, your muscles, your entire body worked together tirelessly to deliver this baby into the world. So we have to recognize that, and then we have to honor that we need to take the time to recover. It takes about 6 weeks for the uterus to shrink back to its normal size. So this is where that 6-week follow-up with your OB comes in. It doesn't mean that you're just like good to go once your uterus is back to its normal size. There's still a lot of other things that need to be focused on. So this can be a great time for you to meet with your pelvic floor physical therapist or establish a new relationship with one and discuss how you're recovering and anything else that is going on. I highly, highly recommend that, especially if you are active and want to get back into what you were doing eventually, right? Or something different, but also with just activities of daily living, lifting up your toddler, lifting up your baby in the diaper bag. All of the things that are required every single day require strength, stability, and we need to be able to focus on that recovery and that reconnection, and a pelvic floor PT can definitely help with that. Number 2 is emotional health and mental wellness. We can feel a range of emotions postpartum, from joy to anxiety, and this can be due to the dramatic decrease of estrogen and progesterone after having our baby. So when you're pregnant, you have high amounts of these sex hormones to be able to continue the pregnancy and to help the development of your baby. When you have your baby and you deliver the placenta, your uterus is going back to its normal size, you're going to have a sudden drop in these hormones. And that is definitely going to impact every system within the body, and especially our brain and our emotions and how we're feeling and how we're recovering. Some may experience what's called the baby blues. So it's a short-term mood change that occurs within the first few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks postpartum. It's quite common, and it can actually be related to some nutrient deficiencies. For example, if you're super low in your B vitamins and the type of B vitamins that you're taking or you were taking during pregnancy. And so this is why, of course, we want to continue that prenatal, and we'll talk about this coming up, but you definitely want to continue your vitamins and your supplements as appropriate postpartum. Now, some may experience PPD, postpartum depression. This is a more severe mood disorder that can actually start during pregnancy or within the first 4 weeks of postpartum. And so these symptoms include persistent sadness, difficulty bonding with your baby, isolation. And so if any of these symptoms sound familiar, if you know someone that is experiencing these symptoms who just had a baby, encourage them to seek medical help and attention right away. And there is actually a national helpline, the Depression After Delivery, and it's 1-800-944-4773. So you can definitely call this, but you can always talk to your OB as well as the pediatrician. Now, during this time, because we have this dramatic decrease in our hormones and we're navigating a whole new life, right? We have a new human, and maybe you have toddlers and other kids at home too, and then you're trying to recover yourself. That is a lot emotionally and mentally. So I want you to understand that you have to give yourself grace. You have to practice some self-compassion during this time, especially when expectations may not align with reality, and they probably won't. Like, we're expecting one thing, but in reality, that's probably not going to happen. So give yourself grace, take some deep breaths, and understand that it will pass, this kind of craziness postpartum, right? I also want you to focus on boundaries and support systems. So communicating your needs to your friends and family. If you do have friends and family, whether they're in state or out of state, they're probably going to be reaching out, asking, hey, what can I do? Can I bring you food? Or can I help? Or can I come over and see the baby? And we need to be able to set those boundaries ahead of time, right? So maybe it's like, I don't really want a lot of company over in the first couple weeks because it's just going to be a lot with a new baby postpartum and recovering. I'm going to be tired. So you have to put that boundary ahead of time of, hey, I would love to see you, but maybe if you can reach out to me in about a couple weeks, we can kind of schedule a time for you to come by. Communicating your needs is going to be really important. So if someone does ask, hey, can I drop off food? Then maybe you say, yes, that would be amazing. Here are some things that I would like, or something to that matter. Because if you can tell people what you would like and what you would prefer, they're actually going to appreciate that. So think about your support system. Who can help you with different things so that you don't become overstimulated and overwhelmed with every little thing? Again, if you have family and friends that are willing to help, do it. If you need to hire someone, like for example, to clean the house or do the yard work or walk the dogs, then by all means, maybe you do that if appropriate for a couple weeks or however long. Creating a support plan with meals, cleaning, and other responsibilities before you have your baby and discussing this with those people and that support system, that's going to be key, because once you have your baby, you don't want to be playing catch up and trying to coordinate that and recover mentally, physically, and then go through all of these things. So trying to do that beforehand is going to be best. And remember, it's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes. If someone wants to come visit you and the baby, that's amazing, great, but call me in 6 weeks. If someone wants to come over and hang out and you're like, I'm kind of tired. I haven't slept in the last 2 weeks and I need to rest. Maybe they watch your baby while you rest. Maybe they clean while you hang out and rest with baby. Whatever it is, I just want to make sure that you're giving yourself these boundaries with different people so that you don't feel like you have to say yes all the time, and then you're putting more stress on yourself. Something to help with emotional and mental well-being can also be connecting with other moms. So I remember I had my baby girl at the end of August, and once I felt comfortable walking, I think it was at the end of October and November, I started posting on social media like, hey, any local moms want to go on a walk? And we did it, I think 4 or 5 times. And it was so fun to be able to connect with moms, whether they had one kid or they're having on their third or they had a toddler, being able to talk about things that that, people don't talk about all the time. It was very, very relaxing. It was nice to get outside, and it was great for our kids to be able to hang out, so to speak, right? Because they were like 8 or 12 weeks. So how much hanging out can you do at that time? But connecting with other moms is big. So whether that's someone in your community, someone maybe there are different groups that you can be a part of. That's really important. Number 3 is sleep and rest. And this goes with that physical recovery. So we know we have to recover. And in order to do that, we have to get some sleep and we have to rest. Now, I understand that right now we're probably having some sleep deprivation. We are probably not sleeping our 7 to 9 hours, right? More than likely we are not. That's going to be a while till we get there, and that's okay. But what can we do to make sure that we can support ourselves with the sleep and rest that we need? So how can you cope with sleep deprivation? Nap when baby naps. And I know that is not always realistic, but when you can, do it. Set yourself a reminder, an alarm, or maybe you have someone come over and watch your baby so that you have the ability to relax and sleep. Adjusting expectations for productivity is a big one. Maybe instead of sweeping and vacuuming and doing the dishes while your baby sleeps, you just sit on the couch and watch a Netflix show, right? Like maybe it's too stressful and increases anxiety for you to sleep. But instead of going to this all or nothing approach where either you go all out and clean the house or you sleep and then you're afraid that you're not going to wake up, you just sit on the couch and rest and recover. So that is a big one, adjusting expectations for productivity. And then sleep hygiene is a must. And we're going to talk about sleep hygiene in future episodes. Making sure that you're focusing on sleep hygiene is going to be important. So maybe you're putting baby to bed at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Shortly after that, maybe you go to bed and you limit TV time and blue light exposure. You have low dim lights in the evening. Maybe you continue with magnesium supplementation to help with sleep and relaxation. Maybe you do some light stretches, something that can help you prepare for sleep and that you can go to sleep and stay asleep until baby wakes up again. So the importance of rest, it's critical for physical and mental recovery, for our immune function, and for mental clarity. You know that if you haven't gotten any sleep or efficient sleep, like mentally you are gone, right? Like the lights are on, but no one is home. So we need to be able to rest and sleep efficiently to be able to support our immune system, our mental clarity, mental recovery, and physical recovery too. So when we are sleeping, even if it's for a short time overnight before baby wakes up again, your brain and your body are rebooting, cleaning out the garbage, renewing cells and tissues. A lot is going on. So we have to prioritize that. Number 4 is nourishment and hydration. We have to use food as medicine. Nutrition is going to be so healing to support tissue repair, energy, milk production, that healing process that took place, whether you had your baby vaginally or cesarean. You have to recover. Also, you just gave all of your energy and nutrients for 40 weeks to your baby. And if you're breastfeeding, you need to continue to get those nutrients, not only to recover, but to support your baby. So nutrition is going to be big. We want to focus on a variety of foods that are high in iron. So like red meat, poultry, fish, shellfish, eggs, nuts, beans, spinach. We want to focus on high protein foods, making sure we're getting protein at every single meal and every snack. And that can be animal foods like I just listed, or they can be some plant foods like nuts and seeds and legumes. And the importance of healthy fats are going to be really, really something we want to focus on. This can be olives, avocado. It could be your salmon, chicken thighs. The healthy fats are going to be helpful for recovery and for energy. There are definitely things that we can add in with supplements like whey protein, whether you're just having that in a shaker bottle, or maybe you add some whey protein to your overnight oats. I know I did that postpartum so that I can have a high calorie and high protein breakfast. I made overnight oats with whey protein and I still do that, but it was really easy postpartum. It was just so easy because I just grabbed it from the fridge and then I ate it. You still want to continue your prenatal supplements, and we'll talk about this in future episodes of the appropriate prenatal vitamins and minerals and their doses. Magnesium, iron, omega-3 fatty acids. So supplements are definitely important. We do want to get it from food first. And so making sure that we can have those nourishing foods, nutrient-dense meals is going to be important. So if someone is setting up a meal train for you, communicating that so that person can put on the Excel spreadsheet or the website that they're using, like Val would appreciate high protein, nutrient-dense meals. Here are some things that she likes, right? So they're not just bringing you McDonald's and Taco Bell and Dion's and Pizza Hut. Like those things are fine. But if we're getting that for every single meal for 3 weeks straight, we're actually not going to be supporting healing and recovery and nourishment because those aren't nutrient dense foods. So real whole foods as much as possible, and then including a variety of foods like your animal and plant foods. Warm foods can definitely be something to focus on to aid in digestion, nutrient absorption, and circulation. I had my baby at the end of August. It was hot. I did not want anything warm. So that's just the way it was, right? Like soups and stews aren't my jam anyways. So that's not something that I requested. Of course, I wanted my food to be warm. Like if I had sweet potatoes and chicken thigh and veggies and then a salad, of course I'd want those to be, whether it was freshly made or just recently warmed up, I wanted those to be warm. But soups and stews usually are a great go-to postpartum. But if it's hot outside and you don't like those foods, that's okay, as long as you're getting in some consistent energy throughout the day with a variety of nutrients. Now, something to think about with nourishment is to set yourself up for success beforehand. What can you do in terms of planning with your food before you have your baby so that you don't have to worry about it once you go through labor and you get home after you have your baby? So again, that can be someone setting up your meal train. Maybe you batch cook a variety of foods and freeze them if you have that room in your freezer in the house. And then of course, communicating things with your family and friends. I remember going to Costco like a couple of weeks before I had my baby girl and getting some meals and foods that I can easily prepare and keeping them in the freezer, and different snacks that I could have on hand so that I can just grab it and have some sort of snack and kind of pair different things together. So maybe it was an apple with a beef stick, a string cheese, and some other type of food, right? Because again, we want to think calories and energy. If you're breastfeeding, then calories are going to be much higher. So no matter what, postpartum, you're going to need about the same amount of calories, if not a little bit more, than you were consuming in your third trimester. If you're breastfeeding, calories are going to go up even more than that. So you need to consume more energy, more calories postpartum to recover and to provide milk to be able to create that and provide it to your baby postpartum than you did when you were pregnant. And most women may not be doing that, especially depending on how busy life is, if they have to prepare their own meals and it's too stressful, or they're on social media and you're getting lots of bounce back culture thrown back at you. You may be thinking, oh my gosh, like I have to make sure I'm not eating a lot because I need to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight. And I want to make sure that is not our focus. Our focus, I am, first of all, highly against that bounce back culture. I am not a fan. I do not support that. We want to make sure that in order to physically recover and heal appropriately and to support for our baby, we have to have that energy. So we need to have enough calories to be able to do that. Now, when it comes to hydration, I recommend having a water bottle in every single room. My house is not big, but I had a water bottle in my daughter's room, in the living room, in my room, and in the kitchen. And my husband was great. He was constantly filling it up. And again, I had my baby at the end of August. It was hot. I wanted ice in there. And I think that's totally fine because I was drinking water. If you can get warmer fluids like tea and warm water, that's going to be great. But again, every situation is different. We want to make sure that we're drinking enough fluid, especially if we are breastfeeding, because your breast milk is fluid. And to be able to create that, not only do we need the energy, the calories, and the nutrients, we need the fluid. So you have to be able to drink at least 100 to 120 ounces of fluid per day. And that can be included in some of your foods, but definitely with water and with herbal teas. Something I do want you to consider is electrolyte supplementation, finding a good brand to be able to add in and have, because that's also going to help with energy and recovery as well as your milk supply. Your electrolytes are going to be your minerals like your magnesium, your sodium, your potassium, your calcium. And if we're only drinking water, we're going to actually dilute those minerals. And that can cause a variety of symptoms. For example, it can cause muscle cramps. But in terms of breastfeeding, it can negatively impact our supply. So not only do we want to be hydrated, but we want to make sure we have those electrolytes. And you will be getting that through food, especially if you're eating a variety of real whole foods as much as possible, both animal and plants, if that's something that you do. So nourishment and hydration are critical to support our recovery, to help with tissue repair, our energy, and our milk production. So making sure that you prepare things in advance when you can, you ask others for help, you communicate what you would like, what you would need, and then just staying on top of being hydrated and having regular meals. Now, number Number 5 is reconnecting with your body and gentle movement. Again, not a fan of that bounce back culture. You don't need to have your baby and then go right back into walking and running and going back to the gym. Like, no, we need to take that time to recover. And the 30 days lying in is great because it's not that you're just laying on the couch all day. I mean, by all means, you can do that, but there are other things that we can do to start that recovery process. The first thing that I highly recommend moms, and I recommend this in my one-on-ones and with my groups, is breathing. Reconnecting to your body and reconnecting to your pelvic floor. Your breath is going to be critical. Diaphragmatic breathing, your belly breath. So where you're inhaling as the belly rises, you exhale as the belly falls. That is a really great place to start. You can do maybe 10 breaths to start, and then you can work your way up from there. You're relaxing the pelvic floor on the exhale, and you're making your exhale longer than your inhale. You can do this sitting up. You can do this standing, lying down, whatever position. Maybe you progress eventually. Maybe it's 3 weeks postpartum. You do it in a happy baby position or a tabletop position, or you move with your breath in a cat-cow pose. Whatever that is, you can totally do. So your breath is going to be important. Diaphragmatic breathing. And then as you start to connect and as you start to heal as time goes on, when you start lifting things up, whether it's things in the house as well as your baby, or eventually when you do start lifting some weights or even doing body weight movements, your stability breath is going to be important. Again, we're just touching on the foundations here. In future episodes, I will go into a lot more detail of what is involved, especially when it comes to breathing, movement, stability breathing postpartum. This can be difficult after birth because your body went through so many changes and feels so different and strange. So starting with the breath is key. And then you can play around with little walks here and there. I remember my first walk outside was like to the mailbox and back, which is not very far at all. And I was moving at a snail's pace, and that's okay. I didn't want to go too fast too soon. And your body will communicate with you too. If, hey, you're going a little fast, a little too quickly here, you're doing way too much, I still need to heal, because you'll probably start bleeding or have some other sort of symptoms. The gentle movement that I recommend is light walking with adequate rest at a good pace. So it's not like you're just going to go out and start walking 1 mile, 3 miles. You're going to progressively work up to that. And then some other gentle movement could be something like the Birth Fit Basics. So what I do and what I work with moms one-on-one and in group settings is teaching them the Birth Fit Basics that they can do not only during pregnancy, but postpartum to help reconnect to their body, get in some movement, and start healing their core and their pelvic floor. Those are just the foundations. That's just a little bit of information about the foundations of postpartum wellness: physical recovery after birth, emotional health and mental wellness, sleep and rest, nourishment and hydration, and reconnecting with your body with gentle movement and breathing. These are the foundations. You start where you are and then you build up from there. Again, in future episodes, we will go into way more detail about specifics and recommendations and what else you can do to prepare for yourself postpartum, as well as through other stages throughout your life. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Strong and Nourished Mama. If you enjoyed today's show and found value in it, I would love for you to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts. Your feedback helps me reach more mamas like you, and I truly appreciate your support. Stay strong, stay nourished, and I'll see you next time.